Hello everyone. In this video I'm doing a little gouache doodle in my Windsor and Newton watercolor sketchbook, and I thought I would film it because I had an idea for an experiment where I wiped out an old watercolor painting and painted back on top of it using the old stained paper as a undertone or toned background. And I would say that this would only work with an opaque medium such as gouache or even acrylic, but this is some really good quality paper and I didn't want to tear out the pages that I didn't like, so I thought this would be a good way to repurpose them. And this paper is somewhat stained because I had a pretty heavy dark painting on here before, and the paper is still rather wet, as you see me here using a water-soluble Derwent GRAPHITINT pencil in indigo to just basically lay down some basic placement for my little portrait. And it doesn't really matter what color you use to do this, or if you even use a regular pencil. This paper is super thick and sturdy, but it is extremely textured. So drawing on top of it was a little bit of a challenge, but all I was really trying to do was get some placement, so it wasn't that big of a deal. I wasn't trying to get any detail. So what also helps that this paper is very toned and muted and kind of dirty, really, is that I'm using some extremely bright colors, and these colors will be toned down because of the background, even though the background isn't really going to be showing through a whole lot in the end. But in places where you would normally leave a white of the paper, say for the eyes or anywhere else that you miss with your paint, it will be muted down with that undertone, and those gouache highlights will really stand out a lot more in the end. So basically, you can use whatever colors you want as long as you have a basic idea of your complementary colors and color theory, and you wouldn't have to mix a whole lot if you rely on the undertone. And in the end, your colors will naturally mute down a little bit, and you can go as bright as you want and it will still be cohesive. So I used my little gouache sampler palette that I made from a few different brands that I wanted to try, and I squeezed them into a weekly vitamin container because at the time I was doing another experiment to see if I could create a portable gouache palette that made or kept my paints from drying out. And although it didn't prevent them from drying out, it still made a really nice portable palette and kept my colors individual so that I can keep them in order and memorize the order that they're in. So yeah, that's pretty much the goal of this portrait and this painting process here. I think what contributed also to my not having a very easy time with this little sketchbook is just that it was very small. It is roughly the size of just a little bit larger than a postcard, and I didn't realize that when I got it. I just assumed it was going to be the standard landscape mode of a watercolor sketchbook, and yeah, it was a little small. So I think it threw off my proportions, and a lot of my faces ended up getting squished or cut off, and I just was trying to be okay with that, but not liking the relative composition in the end. So I realized I would have to go a little smaller with the face, or move it up slightly and maybe cut off some of the top portion of the head, but yeah, those are my my reasons and thoughts behind this little doodle here. And if any of this is, valuable to you guys, I thought maybe possibly somebody had thought about, hey, can I wipe or erase a watercolor off of watercolor paper? The answer is kinda. And it depends on your paper. This paper is really, really durable. So I wetted it twice with clean water before I wiped it off with the t-shirt. And it didn't seem to bother it too much. There was no pilling, no tearing. And I suspect that if I had left it to dry completely, it probably would have been the same as it was when I started, only a little more dirty and kind of warped. So that is it for this video. I will see you guys in the next one, and I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of the painting.